Welcome. Today we have a question from the subreddit AskWomen. Here it is. What was the most unexpected plot twist of your life? Comment 1. Getting pregnant last year twice. We aren't supposed to be able to have children, yet I got pregnant twice in a row. Our first was a miscarriage and we were devastated. After all, we lost something we never knew we could have. Then we accidentally conceived again a week later, and now I have a daughter and she's sleeping on my chest right now. Life sure is strange and wonderful sometimes. Comment 2. Came home from classes one day to find my father left. Turned out it was permanent. We ended up homeless. It was months of couch surfing and struggling through classes until someone got CPS involved. I got a call saying they were going to take my sister. I decided to leave college and take over custody, worked my ass off, never slept to get off the streets to earn enough for an apartment for us and a new life. I was a diligent scholarship student with a bright future. All of that gone with my dad's single selfish decision to leave. I ended up losing friends, a father, home, future, and my formative 18s-20s. I ended up being a single mom to my own sister, and I was barely an adult. Trusting is a struggle now. But man, did I fight to survive. Goes to show life can change in an instant. Sorry for the long anecdote, but man, was this cathartic. Thanks to whoever takes the time to read this lol. Comment 3. Finally ending a relationship that wasn't good for me, deciding to stay single for a while to focus on myself, and then meeting someone 5 weeks later. Been married for 2 years now. Comment 4. Finding out at 40 that the dad who raised me wasn't my bio dad. Mom had an affair and he chose to raise me as his. Comment 5. My fiancé cheating on me with my best friend who also happens to resemble me a lot. Lol. Comment 6. Finding my soulmate at age 17. I always imagined myself as a childless spinster surrounded by rescue dogs and would have loved every minute. But 13 years later, we are still together, still childless both by choice, and 2 dogs. My friends often comment how weird it turned out for me. I was so sure I wanted to be single forever. Comment 7. After a few years of romantic turmoil, dating people who were bad for me, etc., I took a chance and accepted the random coffee invitation of a stranger on Twitter who lived in a different city from me. When I happened to be in town, we fell in love almost immediately, and a few years later, they became my spouse. Comment 8. Finding my husband inside a video game. Lol, we were playing MMORPG in a raid group and he was my tank. I never would have imagined it. I was living at NYC and he was living at SF. There was no way would have met otherwise. I actually saw him on Twitch streaming before playing the game. Kind of funny now I think about it. Married for 5 years now. I joke with people that he was the best loot I gotten in a game and no one rolled on him except for me. Comment 9. Giving up on finding a partner and then met my soulmate at 38 years old. Been together 7 years now. Comment 10. That I hadn't been sleeping at a bad angle, my ribs were sore from stage 4 breast cancer. No history in my family. Get that mammogram, ladies. Comment 11. At the age of 21, I learned for the first time ever that I would have had an older brother had he not died in infancy. It was all so surreal. It felt like something out of a movie or melodrama, because until then I believed that I was the only child my parents ever had. It was also heartbreaking, and I couldn't stop thinking about it and tearing up at random times for the next few days. I still tear up sometimes to this day. I'm starting to tear up now as I type this. I never met this dead older brother. Heck, I didn't even exist when he came into this world. So, logically speaking, it shouldn't have hurt so much, right? And yet it did. And perhaps the most freaky thing about it all is that, for a good part of my childhood, I often wondered what it'd have been like to have an older sibling. I used to half-jokingly bring it up in vague terms to my parents, but in the back of my mind I always pictured this older brother figure. Also, to think that I used to unknowingly hurt my parents by bringing it up over and over again. Every time I did that, it must have brought back painful memories of their first child. Comment 12. My long-term, now ex, telling me he thought he was gay. Totally fine, but caught me off guard. There was a lot more to it, so it wasn't just the questioning in sexuality he had going on. It wasn't a healthy relationship, so I was okay with it coming to an end, but it definitely was a curveball. Comment 13. Finally realizing, after a horrific breakup last March, that being alone would be therapeutic for me and was what I needed after back-to-back long-term relationships. A week later, my area had its very first COVID lockdown. I've been gloriously happy single ever since. Comment 14. Meeting my ex-boyfriend's neighbor, occasional drinking buddy and hitting it off with him straight away. I was in love with X, neighbor was happily married, it was never ever going to be anything more than platonic. Except I'd been missing pink and then red flags with X, and it went from, I only treat you like this because I care so much for you, to full-blown hellish abuse. I eventually got out, neighbor's marriage had already broken up due to financial abuse, ex-wife had a really bad secret gambling addiction that took pretty much everything when it came to light. Neighbor and I stayed friends, both dated and broke up with other people, and a few years later the stars somehow aligned, the world tilted, and we realized we were crazy for each other. 9 years together and counting. Comment 15. I never imagined I'd be divorced at age 23. I didn't imagine I'd be married at 21 either, but I especially didn't anticipate divorce less than 2 years later. Comment 16. I'm getting married in 2 weeks to a really good guy. Been married before, have 3 children from previous marriage. Couldn't have imagined I would be able to find someone who wants me that much. Comment 17. I'm only 22, but my parents' divorce. My father turned out to be very controlling and jealous type, to the point he would tell my mother to cut off certain male friends, and he once tried to choke her. That he almost has zero relationship with my younger brother, who gets straight A's and is highly intelligent, but loves his stepsons, who are often involved with police and constantly creates drama. Yup, did not see that coming. Also, that I'm demisexual. Comment 18. My dad kicking the bucket in the middle of an Applebee's restaurant. Comment 19. Just happened a week ago. A guy I'd been dating for over a year and living with for 6 months, who worked incessantly to get me to agree to date him, came out as gay. Now I have to find a place to live and I'm single again. Comment 20. Plot twist number 1. I never particularly wanted children, always thought I would get an abortion if it accidentally happened to boom accidentally pregnant at 19, and I knew immediately that I would not abort. Still pro-choice, but with a smart 10-year-old daughter now. Plot twist number 2. I always was very good at languages, even been at a school with a specialization, but really bad at math. When I had time to think during having a newborn baby, I still decided to do something different. Turns out I would become a decent civil engineer. Comment 21. My bestie and I were told that we were going to have trouble having kids, her being told she had less than a 1% chance of conceiving naturally, me being told that it would probably have to be insemination, etc. Come October, she finding out that she did indeed conceive naturally, and me finding out in the following February that I had conceived as well. Now we have 2 boys who are destined to be best friends someday, whether they like it or not. Comment 22. A stupid and nasty minor injury during a beach vacation prevented me from going to the sea from day number 2 on. I ended up suing the hotel for negligence where it had happened, and I went on a consumption strike, meaning I had only breakfast and some free crackers. Lost 10 kilograms during the process, continued to lose at home until I was 30 kilograms down all the way to a healthy weight. I got compensated with a free vacation later on, which I took in my first bikini after decades. Comment 23. That one of my closest friends from middle school would become a total creep when we got to high school, taking upskirt shots of us and stuff. Sparking a terrifying realization that most of my friends will probably leave me eventually and giving me a generally crappy view of the whole ordeal. Comment 24. I was in a very abusive relationship. We were never romantic, but he was my person in every sense of the word. We were best friends, he knew everything about me, which he often used against me. He was, and I'm sure still is, a narcissist through and through. He would belittle me, call me a beach in front of everyone. He was the owner of the gym I went to, in which I also coached at and managed. He would gaslight me all the time. When I would catch him in a lie, he would turn it around on me and make me beg for his forgiveness, and would constantly threaten to kick me out of his life. Looking back, he absolutely groomed me into his little puppet. I was 19 when I first met him, and he was 35. Anywho, summer of 2017, I get sexually assaulted while out of town. I came back and life changed. I was diagnosed with PTSD and had night terrors almost nightly, and it made me realize I was sick of his shite. And needed a break to take care of my health after what had happened. I just didn't have the energy to deal with him and his BS. He didn't take too well to me asking for space and basically threatened to tell everyone about my assault, told me I deserved it, told me I would amount to nothing without him in my life. Told me I was worthless, threatened to sue me if I ever spoke badly about him or his business, etc. 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 And still, at the time, I was so devastated that he was leaving me, and I distinctly remember saying, "I'm so sorry. This will be the biggest regret of my life and I will forever be ashamed," freaking up and having him be upset with me. Looking back, I never say I'm happy I was sexually assaulted, but it definitely provided me the clarity to get my shite together and leave that POS. It was a 2-for-1 plot twist, really. Comment 25. For many years I had a ton of strange and frustrating symptoms that zero doctors took seriously, maybe because I am a woman and everything was written off as generalized anxiety, ranging from constant peeing, like every 20 minutes, to sweating attacks would just be sitting on the bus and suddenly start pouring sweat, to extreme fixation on my own death, truly thought every action I took could lead to my death, to extreme constipation. Once my constipation got to the point where I was going 10 days without the ability to poop, I went to a gastroenterologist. She did some tests, including an MRI, and it was discovered that I had a large adrenal tumor, called a pheochromocytoma, about the size of a lemon, spurting out adrenaline constantly, turning me into a psycho. Within 3 weeks I had open abdominal surgery to remove it, which was a physical nightmare. So much about me changed after I was no longer being flooded with adrenaline 24/7. Thank you so very much for listening. Please check out my other videos and like and subscribe.